am so excited to be here with you, Ted, and you
Me
all.
too.
This is the very first Encore podcast. I kind of wanted to showcase the uniqueness of Encore. And throughout the series, you all are going to kind of see how that works.
There's a deep bench.
There is. It's huge. Ted and I were talking about this, and we started off just saying, let's start small. But I know that this is going to take off. So, my first ever podcast, your first ever podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the first one for Encore. And you know what I decided? I wanted to say, I'm going to interview Ted.
Awesome. I'm touched that you thought of me for all of this in the first place. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Ted and I have been through this journey of Encore 55 plus learning for a really long time. And I just was like, you are just fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. I come to Encore on Fridays. So this is when we're at Encore Campus Fridays. I'm usually at the Western campus, but you go to both East and West. And I just sit there and I listen to you having conversations. And I'm like, one of these days I'm going to be as smart as Ted. And then I realized I will never be as smart as Ted.
There's a punchline in there somewhere. But
No, there's not.
Well, first of all, yes, you are. Everyone's intelligence is, they attribute this quote to Einstein, but I don't know that he was the one who actually said it, but he could have said it. If we measure intelligence by how well people climb trees, the monkeys are going to be geniuses and the fish are going to think that they're stupid.
That's very good.
But monkeys can't swim. So everyone's intelligence, and that's why we have a deep bench, because like everyone is bringing a puzzle piece into this, including you.
Oh, thank you.
Juggling these different things and all these different personalities and some prima donnas. I don't know who we would be talking about.
Never. PS could be the initials.
And just, I've said it thousands of times in the last 12 years. I show up and say words. You guys are the ones that behind the scenes making everything there so that, right, I'm not talking to myself in an empty room.
Yeah, and that's the part I want to talk to you about right now, right? And we'll get into the little things because I got a little tidbit of information a little bit later. But,
Okay.
12 years, right?
Why counting.
Why did you decide, hey, I want to go into this teaching thing, and I want to go into teaching 55 and older. Most individuals would be like, 55 years old, they're done learning. You're thinking about, we're part of Cuyahoga Community College, right? And most individuals think college is 18. College is not 18 anymore. Our average age just in Tri-C itself is not that. But what about Encore? Why did you want to do this adult learning stuff?
It's kind of a story to get there, but I for a while lived in Wisconsin and had started studying martial arts, but not breaking boards martial arts. This was martial arts that was involved with health and wellness and related to acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine and things like that. And you can only get so much personal satisfaction out of teaching 18-year-old boys how to jump around like monkeys, right? Right? I mean, it's like, that's cool for a while, but then you start to get into your 40s and your 50s. And who are the people that really want to take their health seriously? Mm-hmm. Are senior citizens. And so before I even moved to Ohio, I had already transitioned into working with seniors or folks over 55 who maybe some arthritis or some stiffness or bursitis or whatever. And if you want to call it Chinese PT or whatever, right? But we were starting to work with them and their health was improving. And once anyone, regardless of their age, sees the effectiveness of something, good luck getting them to stop. Mm-hmm. So through a series of circumstances, my wife had a wonderful job opportunity here in Ohio. I grew up in Ohio. It was great to come back. I'm talking to old college friends like how right? What's the martial arts situation here? And they go, well, nobody's doing really what you're doing. Everyone's teaching little kids how to break boards. And they said, why don't you get involved in going to retirement communities and senior centers and things like that? And somewhere along the line, somebody said, Tri-C has this great program. And Tri-C said, at the time, yeah, we've got a Tai Chi person. Why don't you talk about these things? And that's sort of how I got my start at Tri-C, was talking about it rather than teaching it or demonstrating it or whatever.
Yeah.
And
that's where we are
12
today.
years later,
Yeah.
right.
Well, and it's fascinating too, because, we've had different programs that have started in different places, and I've only seen you teaching the lecture stuff, right? Like the religion and the spirituality and, the philosophical things. But then one time you taught Tai Chi.
Yeah.
At one of our campuses. And how was that different of an experience for you?
It was on the east side, and it was outside, and there was a handful of people. And I think they enjoyed it. But it's
They kept coming back, so they enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things where our format is once a week, and ideally, right, you should be practicing. You should practice martial arts or Tai Chi only on the days when you eat and sleep.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm pretty sure that's like
that's
every day. Okay, just
right?
checking.
And we
Yeah.
just didn't have a program or a thing to do that on a daily basis. And so the lectures, the TED Talks, am I legally allowed to say?
Yes. Your name is Ted and you talk, so I'm good with that.
There you go. They stole it from me. Anyway, the lectures once a week seem to fit better with that. Otherwise, we could start to move around like monkeys.
So I had this fascinating thing that I was talking to you about, and I'm still trying to get Ted to do a laughter class, because my favorite actor in the world is Robin Williams, and we've had many conversations about that, rest his soul. But so we were talking about salt. And how you come up with some of your different topics. And I would love for you to tell everybody. So just for those of you out there, we have at the Eastern and Western campus, when you join us, or if you have joined us, we have huge auditoriums at both campuses. And it was at the Western campus. And usually our classes are from 9 to 3 and our last class is at 2 o'clock. And usually people trail off. It's a fairly long day for some individuals. Our average age is about 75. The oldest person we have right now is 95 years old, and she's moving around more than I can move around. So around like 2 o'clock, we don't usually have people. And I see this laundry list of people walking into our auditorium that holds 70 on one side and 70 on the other, so 140.
Okay.
They're coming in droves to listen to this guy talk about salt. And I was like, Ted, I have salt at my dinner table. Can you please explain to me what this is about? And
so, today, thanks to Joy Morton, about 100 years ago, right? Salt is ubiquitous. It's everywhere, and it's cheap, and it's right in the history of civilization. Salt was not readily available. People need salt. We don't make salt by ourselves. We get salt from eating whatever food or meat or whatever. We get the salt that way. And one of the things your body does is take salt and break it down into sodium and convert it into something called sodium ions. And that's exactly what your brain uses to send signals to your muscles. And your muscle, one of the muscles of your body is your heart. And so back in ancient times, people were dying of salt depletion because their brain couldn't tell their heart to beat. And this, I wouldn't have thought to do a class on salt myself, except for one of our students, fella in his 80 something, Jim Rich, if you remember Jim, he had been coming to a lot of my classes. And I just noticed that he was showing up, and we just kind of struck up a little bit of a friendship or an acquaintanceship or whatever. And he said, I didn't think I was going to go to your class, but I've been coming to a lot of your classes, and you can make just about anything seem interesting. And I said to him, I'm like, Jim, that sounds like a dare. Do you think we could do 7 weeks on like brown paper bags or?
You definitely could.
And at the time, my kids were young enough that my wife would make them sit at the table and have dinner with us, and everyone had to say something about their day. And most of the time, you ask a kid what they did in their day, and they're like, I went to school.
Oh, man, I always get, I don't know. I'm pretty good. That's good. Mine doesn't even know he's at school.
Did you learn something today? Yes. What did you learn? I don't know. Right. Yep. Okay. So I'm telling the story about Jim and our conversation, and my youngest goes, yeah, Dad, pass the salt. And so as I'm passing the salt, I'm like, I'm doing a class on salt.
I love that.
And when you start looking at the history, civilizations have risen. That expression, they're worth their salt. The ancient Romans used to pay their soldiers with salt. The word soldier itself comes from a French derivation of salt or salary, or then soldier, someone paid in salt. I mean, and these little nuggets of history start to come up, and how salt is. And so, it was a very unique class looking at history through the lens of salt.
Yeah. I mean, look at this, right? I mean, this is why I wanted to have this podcast. You are fascinating, and a table thing that my husband uses way too much of. You create a class on it, and it's so interesting. And I think that's what I love the most about our Encore program, are just instructors like you who just have this passion and this just wide range of imagination, really is, and you make it come to life.
Yeah, it's looking at the world from a certain perspective, or how can we make this interesting? Like when I was a student going to elementary, middle school, high school, whatever, the teachers who just spouted out dates, right? Jefferson signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Write that down. That's going to be on the test. It's like those teachers, okay, you learn something from them, but the people who make it come alive, right? The people that sit there and go, think about this. This guy was a British colonial citizen. He was going to commit an act of treason. He was effectively signing his own death warrant by doing. Put yourself in that guy's place. Imagine having the spine or the guts to be able to sit there and go, yeah, I quit. Right? Meaning if you didn't come through with it, you were going to be swinging at the end of a rope. And when a teacher, a history teacher, a math teacher, whatever, could make the subject come alive, could give you a perspective on it. And I think that's what a lot of our instructors do. They're atypical instructors. Yeah. They're not necessarily from a college background. They've been to the right, what do they call that? The PhD of life or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I call you, definitely. I think you have like 500 PhDs, EDDs, all these things. Yeah.
Definitely. But all from the school of hard knocks. Right? Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm never doing that again.
But I think that's what makes the program so unique and you unique in that scenario. And all of our instructors is that exact point. You have such a passion for this and you want to learn. And I think that's why people enjoy your class, whether it's teaching virtually, during COVID, or teaching virtually now with having people on and like the audience. It's just, they follow you.
Right. We all had that steep learning curve of virtual learning, instructors, administrators, students, people who are technology adverse.
Hey, listen, you all are now, you bypassed me in technology. I have to say to all of you Encore 55 Plus Learning students, you all have taken this technology thing and run. I love it. I love it.
A lot of people are and so when we had to, because everything was shut down and safety and so on and so forth, when we had to do that, we did that. We still managed to come together at some level and be able to teach classes and give us something to do besides just watch television or whatever. But the real heart of this Encore program is people coming together and the friendships that you make, fellow students, presenters, that human connection. Just because you're retired, just because you're done working that traditional job or whatever, or all the kids have left the nest, or whatever's going on in your life, doesn't mean your life is over. It's there's something else to do. If you're above ground and you're vertical, there's still room in your head to learn new things, to have new encounters. And some of them you sit and go, that's not what I was expecting, but kind of interesting anyway. Yeah. But I watch in between classes.
So we have 10 minutes in between each of the classes.
Right. It's all the good things about high school, because there's all these people in the hallway going, Marge, where have you been? I haven't seen you. How's how's your hip replacement? Right. All these things are going on. So the discussions are radically different than it was when you and I were in high school, but it's still there because there's that connection, that friendship, and for some people, it even extends beyond the Encore program. There's people getting together.
Yeah, they're meeting afterwards. I always say that this is now a want and not a need. And it's interesting because you mentioned the high school type of thing. So one of the things I always say about our program is you don't need any books. There's no homework. There's no attendance. There's no grades. If you're part of a book club, you should have a book, though, because that would be kind of awkward. But what's interesting is that people are actually taking notes. I've seen people come in fact, maybe that's what we need to do, but with notebooks, and they're literally taking notes. They take your handouts and they write notes and they're highlighting, and it's not going in the trash can. I mean, they actually want to learn. Yep. And I think that that's the biggest thing with our program is that it's like-minded people, right?
It is. Well, they're all there because they want to learn something. They're like-minded, but there's people who are white collar, blue collar, people who from all these different backgrounds that they've had their own unique experiences. And we'll see in future podcasts, people coming to the classes for their own purposes and then getting involved in the program and becoming a presenter themselves. And again, just enriching offering more material for people to learn something different, to see another perspective, to gain something. It's a fabulous program.
And that is a perfect segue for me to give the big reveal here, is that Ted is going to be hosting our Encore podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And
I've been
so
conscripted.
Excited. Yes. It's official. It's on tape. It's everywhere. I'm really excited about this opportunity. For you, for our audience, for our instructors, and we'll see who else down the road. So I'm going to pass off the baton and say, hey, Ted, do you have any questions for me as we end this podcast?
Oh, does that mean I get to sit in the big chair now, boss?
Oh, you're in the big chair. It's just moving from one side to the other.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to getting to know more people, students and presenters alike, as we go along and sharing what's going on and hopefully attracting more people.
Yeah, and so this will be the bread and butter, and I'm sure Ted will probably now have a class called bread and butter, I'm sure. I know you're thinking, I see the gears going. But this will really be the bread and butter of Ted. He's got his opportunity to kind of do what he wants with these. I'm really excited for you all to be able to truly see the uniqueness of our program and really know that it's not just teachers who are coming, right? It's not just, going to an ordinary class. You're going to the Tri-C campuses, but you're really experiencing the wonderfulness.
These are people who have gotten their PhDs from life. Yeah. And they have these unique perspectives, and they're sharing these perspectives, and it's not what you would expect. It's better.
Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Ted, for doing the first podcast with me.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and for hosting all the others. And we look forward to you all tuning in. And I think I forgot to say, I'm Suzanne Ortiz. I am the director with the Encore program with my wonderful team, including Ted Smith here. And we look forward to you tuning in some other time.
See you soon.
Bye.